Hello. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chairs. I want to thank your effort doing this resume, this summary of the discussion. It's an important document, I would say, and I can imagine it's not easy for you to try to understand all of these voices, most of them different and diverse and contradictory. It's a surprise also to have a proposal of SDGs, of these two ones you have put on the table. And please let me make some brief comments. First of all, to join my words to my colleague from Brazil, these two SDGs, and I can imagine others that are going to be on the table, are going to be on the back of developing countries. 92% of the forests are in the south, so all SDGs or targets, etc., related to forests, for example, just to give you an example, are going to be on the back of the budgets and on the expenses, on the efforts of institutions of our states and our governments, I mean governments of the South. Without means of implementation, this is not possible. And let me remember that the last session, the second and the first, we have heard, dear friends, co-chairs, a lot of statements where you can find the mention to means of implementation. Maybe in this session it was not the issue stressed, but we have had two sessions with this issue on the table. In fact, I remember a statement, I think it was of the G77 and China, that suggested, or other parties, if I'm not wrong, that suggested that each SDG has to have means of implementation. Well, I agree with the co-chairs. We have to have concrete proposals. This is the third session. We are having a reflection and analysis on this. But we have also institutions and instruments that have been already developed and are very much related about what we are doing now. Let me remember about, for example, the Green Climate Fund. The Green Climate Fund is going to China to provide financial resources to developing countries in order to execute national adaptation plans and national mitigation plans. Adaptation is one issue that is cross-cutting in the SDGs. So I can imagine that the issue or the goal of land degradation and forest degradation that you mentioned, and even the goal of water, has to have also financial resources in certain way for adaptation, because that's what we have to stress, from this fund and other funds. So we have a clear and concrete mechanism, as you have suggested or asked, in order to provide financial resources. We have to create something like this here. Otherwise, it is impossible to have this incredible SDG, to have zero land degradation by 2020, you said 2025 or 2030, I don't know. I didn't say the year. you just suggested that. Without technology transfer, financial resources, without capacity building. So there is where we have to see the commitments of developed countries, not only developing countries. And this is a very important discussion. I have seen this document you gave us, and I was surprised because it is citing the World Bank proposal on having a decrease of people living on less than $1.25 a day to 3%. Well, I don't have anything against World Bank, but World Bank gives credits, loans. Is it going to be made, I mean, this big challenge, is it going to be made on the basis of credits and loans? Where is going to be the provision of financial resources from ODA, for example? And if we see what's happened with ODA in relation to agriculture, it's terrible. This is the tendency we're going to see the next years. Between 1983 and 2006, the ODA for agriculture has decreased in 70%. 70%. The ODA is decreasing and our obligations are increasing. So we have to find some point of convergence, otherwise means of implementation is going to be a very big problem. Another important issue, about the SDGs proposal or suggestion or whatever you have put on the table. For example, the issue of water. We agree, of course, to have a mention to equitable and just access to water. This is, of course, who could be against this proposal? It's impossible. We agree with that. But what about the concept of efficiency? What is being efficient distributing the water? Is it the same to talk about an industry or a factory of beer, for example, or alcohol, being efficient using water compared with a small farmer that use not precisely high technology using water for irrigation? What is efficiency? Efficiency is a very cultural concept. And I remember in 1990s in my country, on the basis of this concept, the privatization of water systems were promoted because private companies and even some governments said that peasants are not efficient. Local systems of water supply are not efficient. We need to make big companies, and these big companies are going to be more efficient. So efficiency is a cultural concept, comes from modernity, an industrial vision, a private vision. It is not the concept that we have to use here. We have to discuss this very, very carefully, and this is a suggestion, a general suggestion, in order to consider your proposal that you have suggested to all the parties. Thank you.